So in the last two sessions, these are the concepts covered this. I will share this tracker sheet also with everyone so that you will have a understanding like what is covered in each day, and if you miss any topics, right, so you can go through the corresponding video recorded session, right? So I will share this tracker sheet once you confirm your joining. I will share the tracker sheet to your email address. Fine. So the past 2 days, guys, like I covered some computer basics here on Wednesday, and yesterday Thursday I covered software development lifecycle, testing lifecycle, and performance testing at a high level. All right. So the next concepts that we are going to discuss is I'm going to explain what is performance testing. Right. Yesterday we discussed at a high level performance testing at a high level. So today we are going to understand what is performance testing, what are the 4 major factors for doing performance testing, and why do we need to do performance testing for an already existing application and for a newly built application. Okay, so I'll try to complete this today, and tomorrow in the next session I will cover what are the different types of performance testing, and we will have a quick assessment. I will show you some graphs like this, and you have to identify what type of test is that based on tomorrow's session, right? Based on the next session. Clear, guys? So I have a couple of graphs here. You have to identify what type of graph each, what type of test that each graph represents. So performance testing, we already discussed that. Performance testing is a non-functional testing to determine an application's speed, stability, scalability, and reliability, right? So one of the important entry question is, what is performance testing? What is performance testing? Okay. And yesterday I already explained some entry questions. What is functional testing versus what is non-functional testing and all. Right? So coming back to this, what is performance testing? So performance testing is non-functional testing to determine an application's speed, right? Speed, stability, scalability, and reliability. So when I say speed, it is related to response time of each page, right? Response time of each page. And when I say stability, is related how stable is the application under load, right? And when I say scalability, how scalable is the application? We verify how scalable the application is, right? And how reliable the application is once the application goes live, once the application goes into production. Yes, my cursor is my mouse is jumping somehow. Okay, so performance testing is non-functional testing to determine an application's speed, stability, scalability, and reliability, right? Now, what are so let's understand in detail these 4 major factors for doing performance testing. First one is speed, as I mentioned, first one is speed. So we check here if the application responds quick enough for the intended users, right? If the application responds quick enough, means how much time what is the response time of each page, or how much time the application is taking to load the page, right? So let's take any web application or any mobile app, right? So how much time it is taking to load the page if it is a mobile web application, or if it is a mobile app also, like how much time the app is getting loaded, or when we navigate from one page to another page, right? How much time it is taking to load the next page, right? So that is what we check here under speed. And response time should be less. Obviously, response time of the page should be less. Okay? And now what is response time, guys? What is meant by response time?
How fast it is.
What is a transaction response time? Yes?
So how much time it is taking to load an application?
Right. So response time means, let's say for example, you type, Amazon.in, right? It's taking certain time to load the page, right? So I will take a private window. Okay. And I'll check response time of some other website like apple.com, right? Now I'm sending a request to Apple server, right? I'm sending a request to Apple server. I'm doing a transaction, right? Now, what is a transaction now? Transaction means nothing but any user action which involves sending some request to the server is called as a transaction. Right? What is a transaction? So, let's say if you take this example, right? So I'm sending a request. So by typing the apple.com website URL, I'm sending a request to the Apple server, and it's taking some time to load this page, right? Yes or no? To load the complete page, it took some 1 second approximately, right? So how can we see that? Is there a way to see here, right? Is there a way to check that? Is yes, there is a
Yes.
way. Yeah, how can we check that, Madhuri?
Uh, Inspecting the page, and in that we can
Right.
see
So we can
response
check
time.
that in developer tools. Not inspect
Yes.
is one of the tab in developer tools, Madhuri.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
So I'm saying, wait. So let me maximize this. Let me clear this. I'm clearing this. This is the option to clear. So I'm sending a request to again to apple.com. Okay. I'm doing a control refresh. Okay. Now observe here. So it took approximately 1.26 seconds to load that page. Here it is. So this is the response time of this Apple. This is the response time of this apple.com website homepage, isn't it? Here you see some load time, right? Guys are able to see my screen. On the
Yeah.
bottom
Yes.
right,
Yes.
some
Yeah,
load
it
time.
is. It took
It's showing as 1.26 seconds, isn't it? So this is the response time of this apple.com website homepage, right? So in the same way, like not only for homepage, we check the response time, or we are interested to measure the response time of all the pages of that application. Let's say, for example, let me clear this. Let me go to some other page like iPhone. Right? Now observe here. It's showing the response time as 1 second approximately. Right? So this is how we measure the response time manually, guys. Okay. Of course, this is how we measure the response time manually. Right? So coming back to this, response time of a website or any application should be as less as possible. Right? The next important factor for doing performance testing is stability. Stability means to check how stable the application is under expected and unexpected user load. Okay. Sorry. So I missed something. So response times, we measure the response times, of any application when there are on load, actually on user load. On user load means when thousands and lakhs of users are accessing any application. How are the response time of each pages, right? How is the response time of each page, and how fast the application is responding, right? We'll be interested on more on that in performance testing. Clear, guys?
Yeah.
Right. So next factors for doing performance testing is stability, right? Stability. When I say stability, it is to check how stable the application is under expected and unexpected user load. If you remember in yesterday's session, I explained what is the expected user load for IRCTC application. Right. So it's
Yes.
around 1 lakh. At any point of time, there will be 1 lakh users who will be accessing the application, let's say. Right? Now, suppose there is some vacation or something, there is summer vacation or something, right? So at that time, there will be some unexpected user load. I mean, more than expected load, right? More than normal load. Or else, I think best example to take here is Flipkart or Amazon. So whenever you have a freedom sale or big billion sale and all these, right? You'll have more than expected user load, right? So how stable the application is under both expected and unexpected user loads. So that is what that is what stability means here. Clear, guys? Also, is it clear, guys, what is meant by expected and unexpected user loads?
Yes.
Yes. Expected means
Normal user load. Expected means normal user load.
Yeah, that is a sustained user load, right?
Right. Once in a while, we may be having some unexpected user load, right? So how stable the application is under expected and unexpected user load. That is what we check as part of the stability. Right? And application performance should not degrade even after using very long time, right? I'll explain this later, like, what is this using for very long time? I'll explain that later. Okay. And next one is, next thing we will, next important factor for doing performance testing is scalability. Scalability means how scalable the application is, as simple as that. Can the application handle unexpected user load, and how does it behave beyond its capacity? Means beyond the capacity or normal user load, or beyond the capacity of the application, how does the application behave beyond that its capacity, or how does it behave under unexpected user load? Right? It shows application's ability to handle increasing user load without performance degradation. Right? If the application is able to handle unexpected user load, right? So we can say that the application is scalable. Let's say, for example, the capacity of an application is, let's say, 10,000 users. And let's say, like, there are 2,000 more users, new users. And if the application is able to handle that additional load, right? We say that the application is scalable up to 12,000. Right? Or we say the application is scalable by some 20% more or 50%, whatever the number is. Clear, guys? Understood what is meant by scalability?
What is the difference between scalability and stability? Both are
Almost,
load
yeah,
testing.
so almost same. Here we test like under expected and unexpected user load, both expected and unexpected user load. Scalability, when I say scalability, it is all about more load on,
Unexpected.
more than normal load. Yes. Okay. The next one is like reliability. How reliable is the application, and will users have positive experience on go live? Means once the application goes into production, go live means once the application goes into production, how reliable the application will be, and will users have positive experience, good experience, right? So that is about reliability. Okay. And when we are doing performance testing, these are the metrics that we will be interested to measure. I'll explain this metrics once we complete scripting. We'll discuss these metrics. What is meant by client-side metric? What are server-side metrics and all? Client-side metrics you will understand like when you are when we are covering scripting part. And once the scripting part is completed, right, I'll explain what are these server-side metrics and why these are important. Just to give an example, right? So suppose if you are running multiple applications on your machine, on your laptop or desktop, right? So you open multiple programs on your machine, and if the machine is hanging, right? So what will you check immediately? Anything? Do you check something like if your application is not responding, or if your laptop is not responding? Let's say, for example, if your laptop is not responding, right? So what do you check this when you are opening multiple programs, right? So if your application is not responding, what do you normally check? From computer's background, you should be able to answer that question, guys. Those who are from computer's background.
CPU utilization.
What do you check? I mean, where do you check that CPU utilization?
Yeah, in task
Computer
manager.
properties.
Right. So you open your task manager on your machine, and we generally look into this performance tab, and where we check the CPU and memory utilization, isn't it? Isn't it, guys? Right? So these are server-side metrics: CPU utilization, memory utilization, disk utilization, network utilization. These are all server-side metrics. Okay. At a high level, guys, I'll explain in detail, like why this person processor, what is this person processor time, what is this available embeds and all. I'll explain that later. Right? So let's move on to the next slide. Any queries before we move to the next slide, guys? No. I'm taking your silence as no. Yes, please say yes or no, guys. Okay. The next concept that I want to explain is, what are the reasons for doing performance testing for an already existing application and for a newly built application? Or what are the goals of performance testing? Goals means like, why do we do performance testing for an already existing application? Already existing application means which is already in production, okay, which is already in live, right? And for a newly built application, So we'll discuss, let's understand, what are the goals for doing performance testing. First, for an already existing application. So I'll go to the slideshow mode. Okay. The first one is adding a new feature or new functionality. Okay. Another important interview question is, what are the goals of performance testing, or why do we do performance testing? Okay. What are the goals of, sorry, or we can ask, why do we do performance testing? Now let's understand that, let's categorize into two categories. One is for a already existing application. Let's understand first, why do we do performance testing for an already existing application, and then we will understand for a newly built application. Okay. So why, let me go to the slide. The first one is, whenever some new feature or functionality is added to the application, we have to do performance testing. Adding a new feature or new functionality. So whenever a new feature or new functionality is added to an already existing application, so we have to do performance testing. Can you give some examples, guys? What is meant, or what is meant by adding a new feature or new functionality?
If there are any client requirements, we'll check.
Okay. So shall I give some examples? Okay.
OS updation.
No, that is not a feature upgrade. OS updation comes under software upgrade. Okay. Let me explain some. Let's say, for example, everyone know this IRCTC application, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
So, one second, yes. Let me quickly explain this. So, if you used IRCTC, right, previously when you book a ticket in waiting list, let's say, for example, you booked a ticket in waiting list, right? So previously we don't know whether the ticket will be confirmed or not, isn't it? Guys, are you familiar with IRCTC application, guys? Everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
So previously, when we book a ticket in waiting list, right, in IRCTC, we don't know what is the probability of confirmation. We don't know whether it will be confirmed or not, right? Or what are the chances of getting the ticket confirmed, right? So, however, I think, of course, 2 to 3 years back, IRCTC introduced a new feature called confirmation probability. Are you aware of that? Whenever you book a ticket under waiting list, there is a feature called confirmation probability. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I think I heard only 1 or 2 years. So that means it's new feature for others. That's fine, right? So if you use that feature, right? If you use that using that feature, you can check what is the confirmation probability. Means it will show you in terms of percentage, like 80% or 90%, isn't it? Yes or no, guys?
Yes.
Right? Or else, let's take Facebook example. So previously we don't, we don't have dark theme, but recently, I think not recently, last year or so, dark theme was introduced. Last year or before last year, dark theme was introduced, right? So whenever some new feature is introduced to, into any existing application, right? So before that feature is, before taking that feature to live, right, to the production, so we'll test that in the test environment. We already discussed what is test environment yesterday. What is test environment, guys? Guys, what is test environment?
It is a replica of production.
Right. We already discussed yesterday that we will have a dedicated environment called test or engineering environment.
Yes.
Right, for doing performance testing. And ideally, it should be an exact replica of production, of course. Right. So before any new feature is added to the application, before that new feature, pushing that new feature into production, means before pushing that new code into production environment, it will be first tested in it will be done performance testing in the test environment, and if the feature is working fine, then only it will be pushed to production environment or live environment. Clear or no? So just to give some examples, I mentioned those, like in IRCTC, like we have new feature called confirmation probability. In Facebook, we have some new feature called dark theme, right? Dark theme was introduced recently, I think last year, right? So, we can have a number of examples. So one more example is, if you, everyone might be using this red bus, right? For
Yeah.
bus ticket booking, right?
Yes.
So one new feature was introduced in this red bus application is there from many years, isn't it? However, like, I mean, last year, I think, or last year, they introduced a new feature called, okay, first before I go into that, let me explain something. If you book a ticket and if you want to, postpone the journey, let's say you booked a ticket for today, and for some reason you want to postpone your journey to tomorrow, right? So previously what you have to do is you have to cancel the today's ticket and you have to book a new ticket for tomorrow, isn't it?
Yes.
Right? However, like, I think recently they introduced some feature called change travel date, right?
Yeah.
Or
Correct.
rescheduling the ticket. Previously, they used to call that as rescheduling ticket, reschedule the ticket. Now they changed it to change travel date. Now, without canceling the existing ticket, right? So you can change the travel date for the same travels if it is available, subject to availability, of course. Subject to the availability of seats, of course, isn't it? So this feature was introduced recently in Redbus application, changing the travel date. Right? Now, whenever such new feature or functionality is introduced to an existing application, again, we have to do performance testing. Even though it is an already existing application, we have to do performance testing again. Of course, we have to do all types of testing, of course. Right? We have to do all these types of testing. Everything will be done. Unit testing, integration testing, functional testing, performance, security testing, all these types of testing will be done. Clear, guys? We are discussing about performance testing. That's why, like, I'm explaining this, like, with respect to performance testing. Clear, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
Now, the next important goal or next important reason for doing performance testing is increasing number of users or adding new users. So when we have increase in the number of users or adding some new users, then also we have to do performance testing for an already existing application also. Okay? And one more example for this. Let me give one example for this. Because the idea is like you will not forget that in the interviews, or you will apply that in your projects, or like that is a basic. That is the reason why I am giving examples. Yes. So increasing number of users are adding new users. Let me give some example for this. So if you follow the news regularly, right? So last year, right? So Kotak Mahindra Bank acquired a bank called ING Vaishya Bank. How many of you know that or remember that? Guys, are you with me?
Yeah, recently so many banks are collaborated, right, with other banks.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Like Andhra Bank with Indian Bank.
Correct, correct. Yes, right. So let me go with this example. Okay, you can take any example, yes, right? You can take any example. So previously, before the merger, right? So before Kotak Mahindra Bank acquired ING Vaishya Bank, right? Kotak Mahindra Bank, let's say, Kotak Mahindra Bank has its own website, and ING Vaishya Bank used to have their own website, obviously, right? So, however,
Yes.
post merger, right? See, Kotak, I know about it. I don't know what is the website of this, ING Vaishya Bank, maybe ingvaishyabank.com. Okay, the old URL should be ingvaishyabank.com. Okay, so let's say this Kotak Mahindra Bank has some 5 lakh users who are using their net banking application. Okay, and let's say like ING Vaishya Bank has some 1 lakh users who are using this ING Vaishya Bank website, net banking, or ING Vaishya Bank net banking. Now, post this merger, right? Once the merger is complete or once the acquisition is completed, right? So ING Vaishya Bank website will no longer exist, right? And all these 1 lakh users who are using ING Vaishya Bank, they have to start using this Kotak.com. Yes or no?
Yes.
Right? So whenever there is increase in the number of users, right? In this case, clearly there is an increase in the number of users who are accessing the application. Yes or no?
Yes.
or adding new users, right? You can take any number of examples, any example like this, right? So recently some banks were merged with some other banks, right? Andhra Bank and Union Bank. So there are some mergers and acquisitions happening regularly, isn't it? So when there is increasing number of users or adding new users, even though the application is existing, right? We have to do performance testing, isn't it? Yes or no, guys?
Yeah.
Right. So that is the second, that is the second reason or second use case for doing performance testing. Right. The next one is a major software upgrade like database or OS migration on the server. Let's say, for example, you are having an application running on Windows 10, right? Now we have Windows 11, 11, right? So that is OS migration. So if you are upgrading the OS, right, that is called as OS migration. And let's say your servers are running, your application servers are running in Windows 10. Of course, most of the projects or most of the applications will be using Linux, guys. They'll be using Linux operating system. Okay. But just for an example, let's say, because we are familiar with this Windows 10 and 11, right? Windows 11 was introduced recently, isn't it? This year, I think, right?
Yeah.
So whenever there is some OS migration happening on the servers, right? Or whenever there is an upgrade, like software upgrade, like database upgradation and database upgrade, right? So again, like, we have to do performance testing in these two cases as well. Whenever there is a software upgrade or OS migration, or whenever there is a hardware upgrade as well. Hardware upgrade on the servers. When I say servers, these are the different types of servers, web app and database servers. Okay. So I'll explain what is this web server, app server, and database server in one of the next sessions. Most probably next week, like we will be having them. Okay. So these are the different scenarios in which we have to do performance testing for an already existing application. Clear, guys? Good question. Yeah. So someone Rakesh, right? So Rakesh is asking like, are there any other cases where we do performance testing? Yes. Yes, there are many other scenarios in which we do performance testing. Nowadays, all projects are following agile methodology, right? So some new feature will be added, for every sprint. Let's say if you take, mostly the sprint duration is nowadays 2 weeks. Now, what is meant by a sprint? I have to explain what is meant by a sprint. Right? So
Yeah.
some minor feature. Suppose if you are adding some minor feature to the application, right? So that will be implemented in 2 weeks, right? So that is called as a sprint, right? So 2 weeks is defined as one sprint. So for every sprint, right? So some new feature will be added or some bug fixing will be done. Okay. So whenever some existing bugs are fixed, also like we do this performance testing. Performance issues, if any performance issues are fixed, in that case also we repeat the performance testing. Okay. Is it clear, Rakesh?
Yes.
So nowadays, like most of the projects, right? So we will be doing performance testing for every sprint. If they are following sprint model, right? We'll be doing performance testing for every sprint in each sprint.
We need to consider that point also, right? Bug fixing also how to perform.
Yes. Yeah.
Releasing.
Right. So I added those two cases also, guys. Right. So whenever some performance issues are fixed, right? So then also we do performance testing for an already existing application. And also the next scenario is as an ongoing activity in each sprint. Yes. So we do performance testing as an ongoing activity.
Ongoing activity means after the activity or before?
No, when I say ongoing activity, it's a regular thing, something which is going regularly, something which is being done regularly.
That point is not clear. Last one.
Sorry?
Ongoing activities not clear.
Okay, so let me modify it. So regularly in each sprint. Okay, we do performance testing in each sprint as well. All right. So, if there is no feature, see, already we added this adding a new feature. Whenever new feature or functionality is added, we consider that point here. Okay. And sometimes what happens is like, so 1 second, let me Some bug fixes, I can say that, bug fixes after fixing some bugs, right? It can be functional bugs also, isn't it? There may be some functional bugs which are identified, and after fixing that also we do functional testing team do their functional testing, and performance testing team does the performance testing, right? Or else if there are any issues, performance issues that are identified and fixed, then also we do that performance testing, right? So regularly in his sprint. So in his sprint, we'll have some some or other of these activities, right? So we do that performance testing regularly in each sprint. Is it clear now?
Yes.
Ongoing activity means something which is done regularly. Okay, that's what I mean. Anyways, this is more clear, right? Regularly in each sprint. So these are the different scenarios in which we do performance testing. Now, for an already existing application. Now the next one is like for a newly built application. So why do we do performance testing for a newly built up application? Let's understand that, and I'll close the section for today, guys. Right? First and foremost reason for a newly built application is assess readiness of production environment, right? And determine the capacity of existing systems to assess how ready the application is to go into production, right? So for a newly built application, we do performance testing to assess how ready it is, the application is, or how fit the application is to go into production or to go live, right? And determine the capacity of existing systems, means how many users can it support, right? That is capacity of existing system, to determining the capacity of existing systems, right? That means how many users can the application support, right? And next one is creating benchmarks for future systems. Creating benchmark for future systems, compare multiple platforms. I will explain what is benchmark and what is baseline in coming up sessions, right? So I will explain this, cover this point later. So in these, right, out of these, whatever I marked in a different color, right, those are important ones, guys, right? Compare multiple platforms is one more reason, or compare performance characteristics with this with different system configurations, right? So let me put it in an order otherwise. Okay, now compare performance characteristics with different system configurations, right? With different software configurations. Okay. I'll explain what is this system configuration. We will discuss that in detail. So once we go to the test executions, I'll explain those in details. Okay. And next, to support the system tuning, right? To support the system tuning or application tuning. System means application, whatever application we are testing. So we call that as system or application based, right? And now what is this application tuning? What is this? Let's understand what is this application tuning, right? So suppose if you identified some performance issues, there are some performance issues that are identified and you fix those issues, right? So after those issues are fixed, like, right? So then also we do performance testing to support that system application tuning process. We may need to do multiple rounds of performance testing to support this system tuning. Okay, we make some change in the application configurations and we check whether we are getting a better performance or not than before, right? That is supporting the system tuning and creating benchmarks. Yes.
Tuning will come under the engineering part, right?
Yes, it comes under performance engineering.
Okay.
Okay, and this I will cover later. What is benchmark and what is baseline? Okay, and compare multiple platforms, right? So suppose this new application is developed, a software project is developed, and they want to decide, like, or they want to compare on which platform. When I say platform, it is like software platform or a hardware platform, right? When you say my hardware platform, we have Intel process and you have AMD process and all. So when I say software platform, right, we have multiple operating systems, isn't it? So we have Mac OS or Linux or Windows and all this, right? So generally, again, like, most of the servers will be running on Linux operating system. And again, there are multiple flavors of Linux, right? We have a Red Hat Enterprise Linux, we have CentOS, there are a lot of Solaris, AX, and so on. So if you want to compare multiple platforms of Linux, because most of the servers or most of the applications will be running on Linux only, 90%, more than 90% of the applications are, software will be running on Linux servers only. Again, in Linux, we have, as I explained, like we have multiple flavors of Linux. So if you want to compare different flavors of Linux, or if you want to compare multiple platforms also, we do performance testing. Means we deploy that application on Linux and see how good the performance is, and then deploy the same software on another operating system, right? We can compare those two platforms. Clear, guys? To compare multiple platforms also, we can do performance testing on each platform, and to validate any application against its performance criteria. So when I say performance criteria, they can be multiple performance criteria. So just to give an example, right? So to this performance criteria, there can be multiple different types of performance criteria. For example, application should support, the application that you are testing, it should support some 10,000 users, or some, let's say 1 lakh users. This is one of the performance criteria. Or some other performance criteria can be something like this: all the response time should be, or it can be combination of all these as well. All response time of all pages, right, should be less than some 3 seconds. This can be one of the performance criteria, right? Our application should be able to process some, application should be able to process some 15,000 transactions, 15,000 transactions, right, per hour, right? These can be different performance criteria. Our application may be having combination of all this. Now, to validate the application against the performance criteria also, we do performance testing. Is it clear, guys? What is validating any application? What is meant by performance criteria?
Yeah.
And what is validating against the performance criteria? So we will test we'll do performance testing and check these points, like data points, like whether the application should support, is able to support 1 lakh users or not, or response times are less than 3 seconds or not, right? Performance criteria can be one or many out of this. Okay, it can be a combination as well as it can be individual as well as a combination of these performance criteria. Clear, guys?
Yes.
Right. Next one is uncover what components of an application suffer poor performance. Okay, uncover what components of an application suffer poor performance and under what conditions. So when I say what components, right? So any application, any typical, if you take any typical web application, right? So it will have something called web server, application server, and database server. Okay, so it will have something called web server, app server, and database server, and we have something called load balancer. Right? So these are the different components of this application, of any application, any web application, let's say, for example. So this is the most common architecture, guys. This is the most common architecture that is widely deployed, right? And now these are the different components. Now, if there are any performance issues, right, they can be, the issue can be with the web server or app server or database server or load balancer. It can be because of any of these components. So to uncover which components causing poor performance and under what conditions they are causing poor performance, we can do this performance testing, right? To uncover means to find out what components of an application suffer poor performance and under what conditions, right? And the last one is find any performance bottlenecks, to find out any performance bottlenecks or performance issues. When I say bottlenecks, performance issues, right? So these are the reasons, or these are the scenarios, or these are the goals for doing performance testing for a newly built application. Okay. These are few scenarios, guys, not a complete list. These are few scenarios where we have to do performance testing. All right. So I'll stop it here, guys. So any queries before we close the session for today?